here in just a minute. Everything all set up. We'll get going here in just a second. Again, this is the little popper. I'm going to do a few of these getting ready for the tournament on Saturday, and then I'm also going to be pouring some of our jigs as well. Like I said, I'm just getting everything all set up. Luke, how's it going? Got these molds good and warmed up. I'm gonna let that. How's your day going, Cash? Mine's going pretty good. I'm getting these jigs ready. I'm primarily going to be working on our two smallest jigs today. On these. And then I'll be doing some of our 1/64ths as well. And then, like I said, I'll be throwing some paint on these little poppers along the way. We're going to be out at pretty fast flowing river environment for the tournament on Saturday. So, and the water is pretty murky. So I'm going to be doing these poppers fairly dark colored. I'm thinking about maybe about midway and up with some green, and then doing something a little bit lighter towards the bottom. We'll see when we get to messing around with this a little bit. Yes, we're going to be live during the tournament at certain points. Definitely when I'm doing the youth events and giving out prizes, we'll be live. And I'm also going to go live when we are doing the weigh-in at 3 o'clock my time here in Florida, in Panama City area. And you can see there, that's our little 1/64th jig heads. I'm going to be putting together panfish kits for sale up there at the tournament as well, along with our, what I'm calling bass broom jig heads. Kind of a play on the fact that the jig heads, the small jig heads, are for they're a sweeper jig. So I'm going to be making those for bass. That's why I'm calling those a bass broom jig. And you can see there, that's the small little bass broom jig. I'll put my clamp on the mold to hold it, because that last one, as I had mentioned before, the clamp isn't 100% necessary. It's something I like to put on there. And that last pour that I did, I didn't put the clamp on there, and one of my jigs didn't quite turn out as good as I had wanted. I'm gonna look through my colors here. Thinking maybe a little bit of the chartreuse. And some of the yellow green, possibly. And this little airbrush gun that I'm using is really, really cheap. It comes with this little air compressor deal on the back, on the bottom of it, but it works good for doing the small stuff. You can see that kind of yellow green that we're putting on there. And I'm going to let that green just kind of fade down, and whenever I do that chartreuse yellow on the bottom. while we let that sit. I'm going to pour these next 2 sets of jigs. So that's got our first coat pretty well dry. I'm going to take and put another one on. And then I rinse this gun out with just some regular alcohol. And my rag, which I over on the side over there. Gonna spray out a little bit of this green that's left in here. And then I'll put in this yellow that I've got. You can see the way that yellow kind of blended in with the green. As that dries up and the yellow gets a little bit darker, and then we're going to take and we'll do some little accent type colors on there. But that's a little jig that I'm making. And these are our little crappie and panfish 1/64 jigs. And like I've mentioned before, just drop the old lead right back in there, and it melts away. And these hooks, you can see, are super small. And as I pour these, as you can see, like I've said, I'm only doing the first two cavities today because I'm doing the smaller jigs. It's not liking that last cavity on this mold for some reason. So And again, that's our small jigs there. You can see the small little 1/64 jig heads. Not sure what happened. I just lost all signal there for a second. I didn't realize that I was on the Wi-Fi and not just on my phone. And if you can see, I'm doing these. And what I do is I take my clamp off. And I put it on the smaller jigs for when I go to pour them. I swear, never fails when I get in here to try to get to doing this stuff. If I open the garage door, there's always something. Anyway, the little 1/64 jig heads. And then these are what I'm calling the little bass broom sweeper jigs. I'm going to be powder coating a lot of these tomorrow. That'll be the last thing that I've got to do to get ready for the tournament. You can see those there. Put another coat of yellow on our popper jig there. If you can see that yellow starting to take shape on top of that green. And something neat that I've mentioned before is if you see the way that popper, the way the mouth is, and then if you look on those gills area, it's actually open. So as it's popping through the water, it's coming through here and it's going to spit the water out the gill sections a little bit. And that should make for a pretty interesting looking lure. And I'm just pouring my jigs in between coats. Like I said, getting everything kind of ready for this weekend. Any color suggestions on the next popper that I'm gonna do? I have the regular long skinny type whopper poppers that I can do. But I can also do this type with the blade on the back. and also have the bigger ones as well. So I have several styles that I can do. While I'm out here messing around with these things. So there's those, the big bass soft plastic jigs. They're a lot. They're the same exact mold as the ones that I do for the sheephead that we call the Bo Peep jig. They're just in a smaller size than what we use for the sheephead jigs. All right. Also have to jump off of here when people are calling. They're calling to get information on the tournament, so I kind of have to take all my phone calls as well. I have tried getting on here just with my laptop, which I have out here, and it never fails. I have issues with the internet or something, so I've just stuck to doing it on my phone. I even put a little Wi-Fi extender out here, but just doesn't seem to work good enough to stream live constantly. That's a little 1/64 there. I mentioned before I had to take that phone call. If anybody has any suggestions on this little popper that we're spraying, if you have any color suggestions on the next one, or even anything I should add to that one, And there you go. You can see that little bitty 1/64 jig head there. I just take my rag and clean this thing up a bit. And all I do is, when I'm sticking my rag up against the deal here, I'm just back flushing the gun, letting it force air back through, and it just blows all this paint out of the system. And this is just alcohol. Take some red and a little bit of orange. I'll do the orange up here around the mouth, and I'll hit a little bit on the bottom. Just kind of like that a little bit. Let that dry up a little bit, and we'll pull some more of these jigs. And again, that's the little sweeper jig or what I'm calling the bass broom jig head that we're doing. Well, actually, the paint is drying over there. I'm working on jig heads, so it's not like watching paint dry. That's our little 1/64 jig head there. I got time. I'll pour one more set of these. Then we'll pull this set of the little bass broom jigs. Then I'll put the finishing touches on our little popper there. Like I mentioned, I have some of these big minnow whopper poppers, the small ones, and even the cylinder type whopper poppers that I can also work on as we go. But for the tournament that we're doing right now, I'm just trying to get this stuff finished up. I have this little bit of red. And that's just a little bit of red around the gills. And I'll finish up with the gray, and then I'll throw the eyes on there so we can kind of see a finished product on this thing. So that's pretty well your finished popper there. Set that aside for a minute, and we'll pull these. You can see there, like I said, the little bass broom sweeper jigs. And our little micro rounds. I am making a few things. I'm making our little STC micro rounds. These are 1/64 crappie and panfish jigs. And then I'm also making these little sweeper jigs, what I call bass broom jig heads for putting soft baits on for bass fishing. And then I've also I've painted up my little popper jig here. The next thing that I'll do out here tomorrow is I'll fire up the oven, and I'll start powder coating all this stuff with all the different color powder coats, powder paint, so that when I'm done, they come out like this. And this is the bigger version of those sweeper jigs, and we call these our Bo Peep jigs. We market these for sheephead. Got a couple of choices on eyes here. I can go with these yellow, go with the green. I thought I had some red ones out here as well. Yeah, I do. I've got some red eyes. I think I'm going to go with these big red eyes on that popper. One second. All right. So we just take our eyes off of there. Well, maybe. And there you go. That is our little hand painted popper there. And I'll take it. I'll coat that in a good quick clear coat that I have later on. Let it dry up for a while, and then everything's ready to go. I'll put hooks on it, and we can start catching some fish with it. And these are just whopper plopper style lures. So I can turn my lead pot off, let it start cooling. There's roughly 8 pounds of lead in this thing, so it takes a long time. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. What do y'all primarily catch over there when you go fishing in Ireland? So that's how tiny those little panfish jigs are. And I sell those. Well, like at the tournament, I'm going to sell them in small packages because I'm going to have little grubs, minnows to put on them. But when I sell them, generally I sell them in a pack of 10 to 25. So it takes a good bit of sitting out here in the garage making these things to equal up a decent amount of packs for these. I'm not sure of that last one. Pike and brim I'm familiar with. What is the rud? I'm going to have to look that up. You can see that fluorescent yellow going into that gray color. I wish my other gun, whenever I started this, I tried to clean it up, and I guess the last time I used it, I didn't quite clean it as well as I should have. That's a big no-no, and I put it up kind of dirty, so I'm only able to use one paint gun right now. Don't know what other colors I'm going to hit that thing with quite yet. Gonna have a little bit of fun with it though. Just went with kind of a softer underbelly color there. I apologize. Cleaning out these colors in between is a little bit boring, but should have kept doing my jigs because it's taking a little while for this to dry. Using the heat off of the burner for the lid to kind of speed this up a little bit. Just put that little kiss of red right there on the side. These particular lures, you would use these for going after bass primarily. Any sort of predatory type fish, though. The this bottom part takes and spins and causes a lot of ruckus on the top of the water, and it'll get any sort of predator type fish paying attention to it. So there you go, just a little bit of red around the gills, kind of the pink fleshy color under the belly with those side tones on there. And then we'll put some eyes on this one, and that's going to be the last one I do for the day. I think I'm going to go with some of these green eyes right here. You can see that eye on there. So tomorrow, probably about the same time as I got started today, I'll do a couple more lures. I'm going to have a couple of these out at the tournament, but I'll be powder coating all of these bass broom jigs and our little micro rounds tomorrow. I'll try to jump on here probably about 4 o'clock standard time in the US. But hopefully I'll catch some of y'all tomorrow. Hopefully y'all have enjoyed some of these lures that we're painting up here. And the pouring of the jig heads and everything. And hope to catch y'all again on here.